Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I made this lovely off-shoulder gown with this ruffles here. So if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's begin. In my previous video, I shared with you guys how I created the patterns for this off-shoulder gown. So if you haven't seen that video, kindly go and watch it because this video will make total sense if you watch that one first. So the next step was to fold my fabric like so, and then I just placed all my patterns and I'm just going to cut it out. So this is for the front right now, all cut out, and this is for the back. So the next step is to sew all of this, all up. And what I did was to place them matching my notches, right sides facing each other, and I'm just pinning it like so. And then I'm going to sew from the bottom all the way to the top for all of my seams. And for this outer edge, I'll just pin it to the other side and sew. So this is what the gown looks like right now. I also went on ahead to top stitch the seam allowances down, and as you can see, it has the two cross seams at the right hand side and also at the left hand side and all that. So I also went on ahead to sew the front to the back, that's joining the front fabric to the back, as you can see. And the only opening that we have here is along the center back area where your zip will sit. So to create the ruffles, I got here 2 yards of taffeta and I folded it like so, because as you can see my pattern is folded. So I folded my fabric the same way. And while I was drafting the patterns, I told you guys that this long edge there will be on a fold and all that. So I folded my fabric like so. And then I'm just going to place the pattern like so and just pin it. Then I'm going to cut it exactly the way it is and all that. So these ruffles are actually quite large, so if you want to have big ruffles, and all that, then you should follow this method. But I'm also going to make little adjustments because the ruffles for my inspiration pictures were kind of small. So if you want your ruffles to be bigger, like those pictures that I showed you in the pattern drafting videos, then you just follow this method and all that. So this is my front ruffle all cut out. As you can see, I just placed my pattern on it to just show you guys the ruffles. This is only for the front, it's quite large. So for my back, I folded my fabric exactly the same way that I did for the front, but I moved my pattern inside a bit, because we're going to be having we're going to be adding zip allowance at the center back area. So I just marked 1 inch there, and then I cut out my patterns. I cut out my fabric, as you can see. So the next step is to iron interfacing on this, because we want this thing to want it to have structure and all that. So I just ironed interfacing on it for my front as well as for my back. So right here I just placed my fabric here so you guys can see. I also went on ahead to draw in a straight line through that middle area. I just used my chalk, found the midpoint, and just drew a straight line for my front, for my back too. So the next step is to join this front ruffle stuff to the back. So I just placed them right sides facing each other along this sleeve area, and I just pinned it for both the right hand side and for the left hand side, so that we'll have one big ruffle to work with, and the only opening that will be there will be this one at the center back here. So I just pinned it, and I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew from the top all the way down for both sides, as you can see. So once you're done doing that, you should have one very big ruffle like this, very long ruffle to work with. So I don't know if you guys can see, but I use a yellow chalk to draw that center line and all that. So there you have it, that center line running there. All you just have to do is to find the midpoint between these 2 points and draw a straight line, and this will guide you, because this will guide you in the next process that we're going to do now, which is to sew in elastic here, because you know that this is, we're trying to create ruffles here, so we'll need elastic to help us create that. And I'm going to place my elastic like so at the center, drawing my elastic as I go all the way down. So let me show you guys. You just place your elastic there at the center, drawing your elastic as you go, and just using a straight seam. So you just drag it, and you're going to do this from the top all the way down to the center, to the other side. So I forgot to say this earlier, but when ironing your interfacing, you iron it about half an inch away your from the edge of the fabric and all that, away from your sewing allowance, as you can see. So what we're going to do here is to pleat our sleeve area. And if you watch my pattern drafting video, you know that the sleeve area is quite longer than the center back and the center front. So I'm just grabbing the points that I notched, when my sleeve started, for my front and as well as for my back, because we joined the front to our back. So I'm just notching the points again so that they'll be visible, because we're going to pleat that area first. So this is what it should look like at the right side. So what I did was this: I just folded my fabric like so, folded this ruffle, and I'm matching the notches for the top and the notches for the bottom for this area, and also for the other area, where the sleeve ended, for the center back and all that. So I'm just placing my pins there first. So I didn't really iron the center facing well, that's why it's just moving up for my fabric and all that. So once I'm done notching those points and just pinning it, then I'm going to go on ahead to create pleats. So just pleating it, and I'm pleating it and this pleat, the length of this pleat should be 8 inches, because that's the length, that's the measurement for my sleeve area. So all of this will make total sense. If you watch the pattern drafting video, you'd understand that. So for my sleeves, you have 8 inches. Then for my center back and my center front, that's armhole to armhole for my front, so that's for my back, was 14 inches, while my sleeve was 8 inches. So I just pleated it all the way to fit 8 inches and all that. And I did for both the right hand side and both the left hand side. That's for these two parts. And I'm just showing you guys that it's 8 inches, as you can see. So what I'm going to do now is to turn this fabric to the right side. So this is for my other sleeve. As you can see, I'm just showing you guys again that it's 8 inches for each two. And now I'm just going to turn this to the right side, because the reason why we pleated the sleeves first is because we want it to be nice and clean, because this sleeve area is going I don't know how to explain this, but it's going over your arms, so it should be nice and clean. So this is what it looks like outside, as you can see. So like I said, if you want your ruffles to be bigger, you follow this method, but I'm going to be showing you guys how I adjusted this ruffles, made it smaller, like the white gown in my inspiration picture. So I went on ahead to turn this all to the right side, and as you can see, we have the sleeve area nice and clean, and I'm going to be pleating this part that is open to this my front area here. So I also got here my lining, and I'm just going on ahead to remeasure this center front area, to make sure that it's 14 inches in length and all that, plus my side allowances, my sewing allowances and all that. So I'm just going to place my ruffles like so. Now from this sleeve area, of one side, as you can see, I'll start pleating it onto this gown. We're going to pleat all of this to fit the 14 inches that we have here, away from this side sewing allowances and all that. So I'm just taking my time pleating it from this armhole area, all the way to the other part. So all of these ruffles, you have to pleat it to the 14 inches length and all that. So this is the ruffles, all pinned up, and yeah. So this is the armhole area. It is nice and clean. So before I start pleating the center back area, let me just show you guys how the armhole is going to be. So just how it is, so your armhole area now is nice and clean because you sewed it and turned it to the right side. And the way this thing works is that your arm will go into it like so, while the ruffles will be over your arm and all that. So that's why we had to make it nice and clean. So for the rest of the ruffles, along this back area, we're going to pleat it, to fit this remaining center back area and all that, of the gown. So you just take your time and just pleat it. So I'm done pleating one side, and before I go on ahead to pleat the other one or take this to my sewing machine, I'm just going to show you guys how you're going to join this with your lining and all that, because I wanted to have all of my edges nice and clean for both my zip area, both my hemming allowance, and this neckline too. So what I'm doing now is just pinning the lining. I'm just placing the lining against it like the ruffles, and what you're going to do is to sew from the center back to the armhole, all around the armholes for one side, to the center front, all around another armhole, to the center back again. And if you want to close up your zip area like I did, you go on ahead to sew it. So this is what I have. I sewed up my center back, the armhole, the center front, and my ruffle is inside and all that. So along the other armhole, the other center back, along my zip area, and also along the hem, and I left about 7 inches open, along one zip area. So and this will, I'll turn this whole thing to the right side, from that hole and all that. But before I do that, I'm just going to cut out notches, along these edges, and also trim off, the sharp edges. And this will just help the whole thing to relax nice and clean, along your neckline, along the neckline. So once you're done doing that, just go on ahead to turn all of this to the right side, as you can see. So like I said before, the ruffles were looking so very big and all that. So as you can see here, the armhole is nice and clean, the ruffles are there. At this point I was like, I really have to adjust this, make it smaller, because okay, for me this was looking way too big for a mini gown like this. So it was looking like this type of ruffles, and for a small gown like this it was just looking too big for me. So let me just show you guys that here. So this is it. I didn't really like it, so I had to lose it and readjust it, to fit my shoulders and all that. So I readjusted the center front area to 6 inches, and along the sleeve area I made it 10 inches, and I went on ahead to sew it exactly the same way that I showed you guys earlier. But I didn't use any elastic for this. I just decided to create the pleats myself without using elastic, and this was the way it was when I was done and all that. So to give it that puff look, the one that the white gown had and all that, you just poke your hands through the center like so, because this should be laying down flat when you're done sewing it. So just poke the center like so, and then create tiny pleats along that area that you poked. Just poke it, create tiny gathers, pleats, don't really know what to call it, but then you pin it down you just pin it down first, and then you take your needle and thread and just sew it down, just little and all that. So once you're done doing this, just go on ahead to sew your lining, also sew your zip, and clean off the center back area nice and clean. So that's just it. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more sewing videos like this. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Casey Signatures. So have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are.